Imagine stepping back into 1719. Paris isn't the city of lights we know today. It's a dark, sprawling maze of crime, crushing poverty, and prisons so full they're bursting at the seams. The air is thick with desperation. The government, overwhelmed and ruthless, hatches a plan that sounded like a second chance, but would soon curdle into one of history's most bizarre and cruel social experiments. Picture this: you're a prisoner, locked in a damp, cold cell, convinced you'll die there. Suddenly, a guard unlocks the door and offers you a deal. You can walk free, he says, but there's a catch. You have to get married. It sounds too good to be true, and it is. The brides weren't chosen for love or companionship. They were prostitutes, rounded up from the city's brothels and hospitals, women deemed just as disposable as the male criminals. This wasn't about rehabilitation or creating happy families. This was about empire. France had a new, sprawling territory across the Atlantic, Louisiana. It was a wild, untamed land of swamps and forests, and Paris needed to populate it fast. Who better to send than the people they wanted to get rid of? The undesirables, the forgotten, the disposable citizens. For the prisoners, it was an impossible choice. Stay and rot in jail, or take a gamble on a new life with a complete stranger in an unknown world. Hundreds, seeing a sliver of hope, agreed. The weddings were a grim spectacle. They took place in mass ceremonies right inside the prison courtyards. Imagine the scene: men still in chains, standing beside women in ragged clothes, brought together not by affection, but by a royal decree. A priest would rush through the vows, binding them in a union they never asked for. There was no celebration, no joy, just the cold, clanking sound of chains and the quiet desperation in their eyes. Within days of these forced marriages, the newlyweds were herded like cattle onto creaking, overcrowded ships, their destination printed on a one-way ticket: the New World. The journey itself was a nightmare. These weren't luxury vessels. They were floating coffins. For 2 long months, the ships were tossed by violent Atlantic storms. Below deck, disease spread like wildfire. Scurvy, dysentery, and fever claimed victim after victim. Food and fresh water ran out. Many of the newly married couples never even saw Louisiana. Their bodies were unceremoniously dropped into the vast, unforgiving ocean, their dreams of freedom sinking with them. For those who survived the voyage, the ordeal was far from over. They arrived in a world that was utterly alien. Louisiana wasn't Paris. It was a humid, sweltering landscape of dense swamps, buzzing with mosquitoes and patrolled by alligators. The heat was relentless and the challenges were immense. They had to build their own shelters, find their own food, and defend themselves in a land that seemed determined to swallow them whole. These weren't pioneers. They were exiles, thrown into a hostile environment with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a spouse they barely knew. The local settlers who were already there watched these newcomers arrive with a mix of pity and suspicion. They nicknamed the women the casket girls, or in French, les filles et la cassette. This was because each woman arrived carrying a small wooden chest, a cassette, which held all of her worldly possessions, a few dresses, a sewing kit, maybe a prayer book. These caskets became a symbol of their tragic journey and the meager hopes they carried with them. By 1721, just 2 years after it began, the French government declared the project a failure and abandoned it. The stream of prisoners and prostitutes stopped. But the story didn't end there. It seeped into the very soil of Louisiana, becoming a part of its dark and mysterious folklore. For centuries, people in New Orleans have whispered tales of ghostly brides seen wandering the French Quarter, their spirits forever bound to the docks. They say these ghosts are still searching for the husbands they were forced to marry, forever trapped between a life they lost and a freedom they never truly found. This wasn't an act of mercy. It was a calculated act of exile, a brutal solution to a domestic problem disguised as an opportunity. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the most horrific stories aren't fiction. They are history. The screams of those who were shipped across the ocean have faded, but their story remains a powerful testament to survival, resilience, and the cruelty that can hide behind the promise of a new beginning. Thank you so much for watching and exploring this forgotten chapter of history with me. If you found this story as fascinating and haunting as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you in the next video.